This is the first in a series of videos about Microsoft Excel. Microsoft Excel is one example of spreadsheet software. A spreadsheet software looks like this, where you've got a large grid usually, and the grid is made up of boxes, and the correct name for these boxes is cells. They are called cells. Okay, any one cell can be referred to by using the cell reference. So the cell reference for this cell, for example, is F4. It's always the letter that comes first, and the letter is showing the column that the cell is in. So column F, and that's followed by the number, which shows the row that the cell is on, in this case row 4. So the cell reference for that cell is F4. If I move down here, the cell reference for this one is J8. One more, this would be D11. It's always the letter that comes first, the column letter. Okay, so a grid made up of cells, and each cell can be identified using the cell reference. It's usually easy to spot anyway because it's highlighted, as you can see, in that case I7. Now what can we put into these cells? Well, the most common things to put into cells are numbers and labels or text and formulas, which we'll have a look at in a while. Let's start with a number. So if in this cell H6 I'm going to put the number 45. So I'm going to type 45 on the keyboard and press enter. Above that, in cell H5, I'm going to put a label, and the label I'm going to put is pupils. Press enter again. So I've got 45 pupils. Notice that the number is entered on the right hand side of a cell automatically, and labels or text is automatically put on the left hand side of a cell. Okay, so 45 pupils. In I5 I'm going to put another label, and that is grant. I'm going to press enter to fix it into that cell. Okay, so each of my 45 pupils gets a grant, and the amount of grant that they get is £5. So I'm going to put a 5 in here and press enter. Okay, 45 pupils, each getting a grant of £5. I want to work out a total for that. So what's the total grant if I have 45 pupils, each getting a grant of £5? So in this box here, in this cell J5, I'm going to put a label total grant and press enter. Now notice that this label, total grant, doesn't fit quite into that cell. It sort of puts a bit of it into K5, or at least it looks like that. In reality, that label, total grant, is fitting into J5. What we need to do is just make J5 a bit wider so we can see that it fits into that. And there are two ways of doing that. You can either point between the J and the K at the top and hold down your mouse button and drag it wider. Let's do that, like that. Or if I move that back, a slightly quicker way, and better to some extent, is to point between the J and the K again, but this time double click instead of dragging the mouse. If I double click, it automatically sets the width of that column, and that's what's known as auto width. Okay, so if your label that you put in is too wide for the cell, point between the two cells that it's split across and double click or hold down your mouse button and drag it to make it fit. Okay, so I've got a very simple spreadsheet that I'm starting to set up now. 45 pupils, each has a grant of £5. I want to know what the total grant is, and I'm going to put a formula into this cell to work that out. Just one thing before we go on to the formula on the next little video. What if we make mistakes? Let's say I'd spelt pupils wrongly once I entered it. Two things you could do. You could either delete that label and retype it, and to do that you just go to the label and you press the delete key. Or I could edit that label, and to edit it I'd just click on the label where I'd made a mistake, and then I'd go up to what I call the editing line here, but on Excel it's usually called the formula bar. You can see that with the little tooltip which is just underneath the caret or the cursor there. Okay, you'd go up there, you'd click at the end of the label that you've typed, and you'd edit it using the normal backspace key and type what you wanted instead, and then press enter, and that would be fixed back into the box. Okay. An extra way you could change it, I suppose, is if you wanted to, let's say I wanted to change Grant, I could just click in there twice. So I've double clicked there and that switched that cell on, and I can edit that. Okay, so I could rub that out and put what I wanted as the correct spelling and press enter. So that's two ways of correcting mistakes, either on what I call the editing bar or the formula bar, or by double clicking in a cell and editing what's in there. Okay, set this up on your spreadsheet. Okay, and then have a look at the next video, and that'll go on to entering a formula to work out what the total grant is.